Well, greetings everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the splendid catastrophe that we call the Inworld Review. Uh, Seriously, this is where we look at the arts and the people and the destinations, places that you can go on at the Open Simulator platform, all connected together, I hasten to add, by something called the Hypergrid. So imagine you've got several thousand versions of Second Life, which are not walled gardens, but you can jump between them with the same avatar, the same inventory, and same wallet if you care to have one. And yeah, whether you can talk very well across them is another matter entirely, but we're not going there this week. We had a good response to last week's show where we were bringing up the issue of a mumble voice and just voice in virtual worlds generally, and coincidentally, nowhere seems to be able to get people working today. So it's just proving that it's high time we do have an alternative. Uh, More on that in a minute if I get it. Um, right. Yeah, we look at yeah, everything going on the hypergrid really. So my name is Mal Burns, if you don't know, and I'm coming to you courtesy of the interwebs on the 4th of February. Yes, the 4th of February of what's that time here now? Yeah, 2024. Yeah, I got it right for once. And indeed, 4th of February. January's over already. It goes so quick, doesn't it? On my left-hand side is none other than James Atlloud. He who sits and fiddles with knobs and presses buttons. Welcome, James.
Yeah, hello, Mal. It's great to be here. We're having some scripting issues today, but I was wondering if you can try speaking a little closer to your microphone. Your voice has been cutting out a bit.
Oh, probably because I trying to hide the microphone because of the echo. But never mind. Let's see. Yeah. Now we're working properly. Of course, I can actually. Um, well, we'll see. How? Oh, why have I got two different thingies there? Okay. Is that okay?
I think it's a little bit better.
Right. Not much. I'm actually. Yeah, I got my mouth hanging out the microphone now. I can't win, can I? I just need to change the input volume at some point, but I'll do that when we have a little break. Right. Oh, God, my microphone's falling over. That's not going to help, is it? In the end. Right. Okay. On my left-hand side is none other than my wonderful co-host, Thirza Ember. She of Safari and all sorts of other things too. So welcome, Thirza.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be here. This is going to be a great show, I'm sure. And yes, lots of little problems with the sound, but that's all the fun of the fair. At least we can hear each other, even though Vivox has been down all day here on Opensim.
I wonder if they're somehow connected, but you would think something not being there wouldn't affect what is there, which is very odd. Yeah, and you, of course, have Barkus by your side, who has been taking a great interest not only in your T-shirt, but also in our guest. I will introduce our guest. It's from the Mobius Grid, and his name is Royale Mobian. Welcome, Royal.
Hello. You can just call me Roy if it's easier for you.
Right, I can probably we'll see what happens. I think I'll get used to Royal now. Never mind. Okay, it's when I have to do two names for a month. Right. Okay, so to get going, I'll just say we'll be coming back to Royale shortly, looking at his grid and various things. But first of all, we've got a bit of our normal housekeeping to take care of at the beginning of the show, as ever. And we're going to start with Thirza, who I'm going to hand over to now as she brings us something called the Hypergrid Happenings.
Yeah, he's not wrong. There is a lot happening on the hypergrid as usual this month, this week, and even today. So a lot of people are over listening to Lone Wolf talk about how he can fix up Discord so that it can work instead of Vivox, should Vivox really disappear from our worlds. So that's going to be interesting to hear the fallout from his community's session today. But we have some much more entertaining things happening that are much more lighter hearted than the worrying about whether Vivox is going to abandon us. For example, there's a carnival happening over on Contiguous Grid. I wanted to show you this. This is a Spanish grid. It's quite interesting place. Their event is on Tuesday at about this time of day, so 12 o'clock SLT, about 9 o'clock here in Europe. And it's Alex Stone's region. It's a fun place, and they're going to have a carnival event. You can win a prize. The first 4 best costumes will win something nice. Just want to point out that many times you see this grid listed as hot colon 80. Actually, the address you see on this poster is the correct one to be able to get to any of their events. So I encourage you to take a note of it. It's conectados.opensim.fun. 8802. That actually works if you want to go over and explore a little bit of Spain in Opensim. Fun place. Next thing I wanted to talk to you about is this week's safari. We're going to 2 places as usual, always do, starting at about 12 noon SLT. These are 2 Prim-based builds. Really interesting, 2 very different, very interesting people. One is Mount Grace Priory, which is one of the oldest builds in OpenSim. So not only does it represent a very ancient building from medieval times, but it's actually kind of dates from the medieval period of OpenSim. So if you don't know what buildings were like back in 2008, 2009, when there really was not a lot of hypergridding, you had to make an avatar to go and see a lot of places. This is a fun thing to do. The other place we're going to is on Kitely. It's Serenity Island. There's loads of stuff on the region, but we're specifically going to see some neon art, and then we're going to go to the planet Mars. So James, be ready for some serious sitting down during this event. As usual. I just wanted to also remind everybody that Carnival is coming up. Obviously, all the German grids are doing something, but my lovely Pangea is doing 3 different things because they just can. First of all, there'll be a costume party. That's on the 8th. That's Thursday. And then at the weekend, on the 12th, there'll be, rather, the 12th is Monday, so it's Rosenmontag. So this is going to be a carnival event where we have a whole series of floats and cars that are going to be parading through the streets of the region, which is it's Cologne Cathedral region. Kölner Dom it's called, and it's on Pangea Grid. So this is what Marlon told me to tell you. See if I can get it right. He says that it's the burning of the figure, which is the nubble. Do you know what a nubble is? Anyway,
No.
The burning of this figure in connection with the carnival has been going on in Rhineland since the beginning of the 19th century. They actually burn. It's a pompous carnival funeral celebration. So if you're pompous, if you're bossy, you're risking getting burnt up over there in Cologne and on Pangea Grid. So it's a great thing to do. We can burn all the pompous people. Why not? Yeah,
That's
let
a
them
whole
hang
new
it.
meaning to the word fired.
Yeah, truly.
Doesn't it? Excellent. So there's 3 fun things to do over on Pangea Grid this week. And of course, if you have an event that's coming up, maybe you have a project going on, you've got a special party, you're having some kind of art opening, you teach a class, anything like that that's coming up on your grid, and you would like us to feature it on this show, let us know. And it will be in Hypergrid Happenings.
Right. Okay, thank you for that. There's a wonderful roundup there of things to do during the week, and you can get that little insert tomorrow on Facebook as well on the Inworld Review page. Right. So getting down to other things. Where to start? He asked himself. I did mention at the top of the show that Evox seems to be down for OpenSim users. I did notice an old post on Hypergrid Business about 2 years ago saying that they were changing their plugin or something, and that it would continue.
I've actually heard from a few friends on SL. There's some issues on SL with it at the moment as well.
Yeah, I think it is. an overall thing. Anyway,
It is down. If you check on is it down? You'll see that VBox is just down. The whole website's down. It's not just for
Yeah.
us. They don't have any public facing pages at all open. So the whole site is down. It's nothing personal to Opensim.
Basically, any Unity customer using it's having issues.
Yeah.
Exactly. The whole thing is down.
Okay. I was just doing my announcements. There's not really a conversation here. Anyway, there's you will find that if you go to VBox's site, it clearly is still available for things like non-profit things like Opensim, and apparently you can get quite a large number of users in for free these days, not just the original, what was it, 50 users on the region or something. So they've got quite a lot there. So the only other thing to mention is if you look up VVox and go there, they're now a subsidiary of Unity. So you should get to this page basically. And talking of which, we're going back to Thirza's blogs from the week. Just the Friday's edition actually was a bit of a roundup from last week's show where she said, "Oh, so are you ready to mumble?" The joke here was, I think I'm only ready to grumble at this point because nothing was happening earlier. But anyway, there's a little review about last week. Neither Snowbody or God, my mind's gone out all headed today. Snipper, who was on the guest last week? I've gone blank all of a sudden. But neither of our guests were apparently entirely happy that we managed to cover everything there was to cover. But, you know, it was a fairly long show anyway, so we'll have to find different ways of getting back to it. But here on Thirza's website, as you can see, she's the Safari website. She's reproduced the slideshow that we had last week and summarized a lot of the points that were being made there. So being able to read that in retrospect might help clean things up a bit for you. Okay, and what else did we have? What else did we have there too? Well, the first stop was Paragon Grid, and this is all about the virtue of Paragon. And get the slideshow up here, and I'll let Thirza give us a quick talk through the slides here. 12 of them.
Oh yeah, this is this. Sorry, I have an echo. This is Hugabug and Gabe, who are the owners of Barefoot Dreamers Grid, and they welcomed us to visit this wonderful fun fair, which is based on a place that Hugabug used to visit when she was a little girl. So it's a fun place, and it's based on sort of a virtual archaeology, I guess you could call it, a sort of a 3D archive of what the place was like back in the 80s. So it's a really beautiful build and a lot of fun. And this was our first ever visit to Barefoot Dreamers Grid, so that was a privilege to get a chance to meet them and be so very welcomed. It was lovely.
Yeah, big fairground here, as you can see, and a very big turnout actually for the actual safari this week. Mind you, a few of those are animeshes or NPCs or something. There were quite a few of those hanging around there, but it was all great fun. And big boy there with no clothes on, but he didn't have any attachments either, so that's no problem. Right, yeah, various people hanging out here.
Yes, and shout out to Hugabug. She's not big on scripting. She doesn't know a lot about scripting, and Gabe isn't a great scripter either. So the pair of them are hoping that as time goes by, different ones may be able to come in and give them a hand, because they would love to have the whole place scripted. Quite a few of the rides do work, but not all of them, and it would be really nice to bring the whole place to life again. Because of course, again, this is a place that no longer exists in real life, because it's been, I think James was brought that aspect up, the fact that it's all been turned into condos, the whole park, this huge
right.
5-mile long park. So again, it's a way that
That's
something
awful.
that is gone from real life. Yeah, something from real life is gone, but it's still preserved, if you like, in the virtual. There's Afra. She made a friend.
That's a strange thing indeed. This is a right. Yeah,
I'd like to just apologize for this gift. It took me forever to find where you guys were on this flume, and I only finally got the splash. That's the only bit of the ride I was able to see.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
I was actually coming around the same bit at one point, and even with nothing happening, it was a clever thing to try and navigate the camera through that scaffolding almost. So, okay, then distant view. That is the outside view of where Thirza was filming a minute ago. And what else we got here? Oh no, sorry, wrong way. Children must be this tall. I thought that was kind of funny. It's got a little line there. But tinies are too small. Never mind. And last one. Oh, that is the last one. Okay. Oh, yes. We missed one. That's Tasha on the... I actually joined her on that, but that was after this was taken. Just bouncing on a trampoline. That's the name of the thing I was trying to remember. Okay, second stop on the safari was at In the Abyss. This episode, so to speak, is called, and it's actually highlight the headline or subheadline is James saying, "I am mesmerized. Imagine a ground city, old as time. You reach the sea amongst the."
Yep.
I think the thing was James was saying, "I am mes dash mer as in mermaid."
As in mermaid. That's right.
That was the idea. Okay. I don't know why I was put it as a headline, but never mind. Okay, so yes,
I never saw a pun I didn't love. That's why.
fair enough.
This is Neverworld Grid, and this is another build by Nexus Storm, Mr. Smokes, Tom, and a bunch of other people too. There they are. There's Mr. Smokes and Nexus, and this is their dream child, if you will. And it's a sunken city. It's all mesh, so be ready for some, serious rezzing. And it's a very, very big place, and we went through it at quite a pace. So it's beautiful place, and I'm sure Mal must have taken some really good film of it because there was so much to see.
There was very little to film on the fairground without getting a bit boring, so that was quite a lot of short footage. But this just went on endlessly, and there's probably half an hour of silent footage following people around. So, yeah, it was very good. And of course, towards the end, we emerged on the surface, and there was even more to be found amongst the ruins there. So, but yeah, the thing, grand shots, these, the stone staircase. All this is actually underwater, although it's sort of. On film, it's hard to tell. The giveaway is just little bits of rippling in the background and stuff. That's a bit more obvious. I think this was the first place we were when we all rezzed, and we've sort of it was a question.
The thing with you're getting kind of a bit overconfident. Everybody's wearing much more complex mesh outfits than they used to. Back in the day, everybody would be very careful. You can see in the foreground here, this is Alexi. He's kind of new to the safari, and he shows up Ruth every time. And he sort of compensates for everybody else being 100, 200,000 complexity. So, and then, which is fine if there's only 10 of us on safari, we could get away with it. But when we start to be like last week, 20, 23, 24, it's a little more than the grid and all our poor viewers can take. So might want to think about reining back some of the more fancy mesh that we wear.
Nobody allowed on safari anymore if you're bling full or something. This was funny because when we rezzed, I don't know, maybe it's my camera or something, but half the time the grass seemed to be longer than the height of the people that were landing. So, well, where's so and so? Where's so and so? Kind of thing. Right. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, this is another one of our sort of the regulars there, isn't it? She was touring us around as a mermaid. In fact, I think even James managed to acquire an interesting lower body thing.
I saw him with some equipment. Yeah, no, this is Govega, who is the grid owner. And I don't know if she's swimming or walking. I couldn't decide. But either way,
Got
she's
a walk,
certainly dressed for the occasion.
Yeah. Yep.
walking animation, actually, oddly enough. You can tell. But, you know, when they told me somebody walking and they jerk it as they move the frame.
Seeing that walking animation is kind of weird
Exactly.
with that frame rate.
Yeah, there are some wonderful actual in animation now, but no. Okay, more static shots here underwater. Big wing or something top left there. Is that star or something wings? Or, I can't remember.
Mel, you'll have to speak up a little bit. You're clipping out.
Oh, very sorry. Okay, well that makes a change to Mecca, I suppose. Yeah, okay, another nice shot. I was just wondering who the wing belonged to that's in the top left there, but if anybody.
Oh, I think that might be Fatty. She belongs to Neverworld Grid. She's a beautiful avatar. Yeah, maybe that was her. There's a strong Turkish presence on the grid. That's why you'll often see in chat, you'll see that they're using a translator that's set to Turkish. You'll see it say Mahaba instead of hello. That's why, because there's quite a few Turks on that grid.
Wow.
That's cool to know.
Okay. Tiny mer. A very weird mer, actually. Oh, okay.
Oh, that's a beautiful avatar on the left.
Yeah, well, it's so fun on Safari because every time we make new friends, we meet somebody new, cool. You know, the thing with Opensim is very few people are pushy and arrogant talking and just, oh, I know it all. Most people are quite modest, and then you kind of get to know them, and you suddenly realize that they're really very well informed or very creative or talented. But it takes a lot of work quite often to discover what people know and what people are building, and so. It's a nice, refreshing change from like other places where everybody's kind of just boasting all the time. So I love it.
Cool.
Did you see that hole?
That's the guy who had that other shot I couldn't identify.
I think we killed the monster. The monster was supposed to eat us, but it didn't work out.
Oh, my God. There we are. Okay. So, yep, next one. Hello. There's a monster.
And this is just a photo, but actually that's what's it, octopus. It kept jumping up in the air. Did you see that? I kept seeing it out the corner of my eye, and I think, oh, something moved, and then you look, no, everything's still. And it was every now and it gives you a bit of a scare.
Yeah, I like it. Even in camera mode, I tend to do things like that. I like this. Not my thing at all, but welcome to this. Don't miss on me. Okay, more animation there. Oh, now a good deal of people have actually, I mean, whether they've even got the lower body kit, they still seem to be attempting to swim. Or this Gavega there is good dog. She's actually swimming now. So, she walked with a mermaid's tail. I don't know, but yeah. And nice beauty shot. It's so elaborate, this build. I mean, it was in some ways you could say samey, but there was so much of it, you know, and then steps going up here, there, and everywhere, and yeah, really. Oh yeah, there we are. They're in with the wings again. I do believe that's probably Thursday, but nice. Yeah, okay. Well, there's definitely a fire there. Oh, it's one of the hosts again. Actually, there we are.
No, I think this is to do with the volcano. There was lava, and the lava was setting things on light. But it was quite a long tour, and it was quite quickly done. So it wasn't entirely easy to follow what was going on. But the beauty of it is that it's a build that you can go back and discover for yourself. It's really beautiful. At the beginning, I had my camera anyway. I think a lot of people do the same thing. You tend to have your settings so that there's enough light for you to see where you're going and what's going on. But then eventually I turned it down to the correct setting for the sim. And it was nighttime, and you've got these beautiful. I don't know if you guys do the same thing when you go on Safari. You know, modify the light at
I
least
always
for
have
the.
it set to shared environment so I can see how it's intended.
Yeah.
No, I mean the guys who come on Safari, because obviously that's a different experience. But what about you, James? What do you do?
Well, I agree with Royal. Sorry about the airplane, but I turned it to sunset. I thought the warmer colors were much nicer, but it's mileage varies for each person.
Yeah, I do.
That's true, but when we're in a big group, you don't want to get too lost. And sometimes if it's too dark, you can't figure out where everybody's walking.
Exactly. So when I go in first, I start camming, getting as good a record as I can. And that would normally be midday or something pretty obvious that's, I like James, see somewhere I can call this great concept. But yeah, um, overriding the region settings. But if I got time there at the end, I would normally switch to region settings. But, don't forget that I've put them on.
Yeah, I mean, the ideal is that we should look at everything with the wind light or the settings that the person intended for sure. And when you do set it, you realize why many times.
Yeah.
It's a very beautiful sim. I would recommend it.
And that's the thing that you were talking about. And there's the last picture there. This nice architecture. I remember doing this a while ago. We're getting some hold of sort of clinging moss, and when you get old brickwork and things, and you start putting moss hanging out the house, it really brings a realism to it. You think, God, this thing's been here for ages and nobody's cleaned the moss off yet, It makes it very architecturally historical feel to it, basically. Okay, so that was all we had there. So I'm now going to move across, in this case, to our middle screen, and time to well, you've heard from him already quite a bit actually, but time to reintroduce you to Royale Mobian from Mobius Grid. Welcome again, Royal.
Thank you for having me, Mal. It's been a while.
It has been a while. Now, I actually was over filming yesterday on about 4 or 5 of your regions, so quite a good thing there. I was amazed how diverse they were, but at the same time, architecturally very similar. In other words, unlike the tribute to the cartoon thing that you used to have, well, it's probably still there somewhere.
Tribute?
It's a style to the brickwork and things of your buildings that.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. No, that we evolved the style. It's still there.
Yeah.
It's just we changed the textures for winter, fall and summer.
Right. But it's just each time I went to a new region, it was very different. But at the same time, there was something about it that said to me, "This is still on Mobius Grid." There's that underlying something, even though you managed to do a lot of variety with it. But we'll see that because I've got about 20 minutes to film that will be running behind us while we're talking here, and you've got some slides of your own, of course. I'm going to start. Thirza sent me this in the week, and you tried to send it to me about half an hour ago too. This is a video of yours, which I guess is about role play and stuff there. So I'm just gonna play this. I believe it has sound on it. I think so. We'll be
it's just a song, but I would advise muting the song.
Yeah, well, we'll listen to it as it goes. It's only 3 minutes, so you can tell me a bit about it when it's finished. Actually, is probably the best way to do it. Yeah. Assuming it does play.
Mal, I don't know if you know, but none of the music seems to be coming through, so I think you could feel free to talk over the video.
Sorry?
None of the music is coming through? Did you turn the music off?
I'm hearing it fine, but right, okay. No, I didn't turn it off.
Okay.
But I think when I managed to fix the echo for you, I managed to put some voice isolation on, which I don't normally use, but it will have. It's probably managed to. That's why my voice seemed a bit faint, because voice
Yeah, well, I was
isolation
thinking
limits.
maybe Royal could explain the video that we're watching.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So this is a combat game that I have contracted a good buddy of mine named Akile to work on us. This is his video and him piloting, actually. He is so we are the working name for the combat system is Valkyrie, but long story short, it's just aerial combat. This is a very early version of him combating against some drones, which are actually just NPCs and sitting in planes. He well.
Sorry, are the planes NPCs themselves, or you got actual people NPCs sitting?
No, straight up actual NPCs, like OSSL NPCs are in there.
Yeah.
We decided to use NPCs instead of Animesh to make use of the radar that you see in the side there.
Ah, got you. Yeah.
So basically, this is an early version. This is actually out of date even compared to the current version. This is just the latest video we have. You actually current version has you actually see the drones firing at you now. As you probably noticed, he does fire, and you can actually see the players shoot and stuff in this version. Now the drones do as well. They always fired. It's just you couldn't see it before. It's just particle effects using some ray casting. He had to find some, workarounds to work at Opensim due to the fact that, well, he's from the SLMC, so they're used to a bit differently, things working differently there. But he is very resourceful and figures stuff around.
MC, they'll be on the ground for a start.
Current version has when you are shot out of the sky, you spin out of control and blow up. And it will delete itself after being in flames. The plans is to have a 4v4 4 teams of 4 against each other.
Oh my goodness, wow.
Right, you need a big safari for this. 16 people basically to take part on that. This have any
you don't
of
need 16.
Come across this Apple TV thing called Masters of the Air?
I've recently seen commercials for it.
Now, the aerial photography in that is astonishing. I mean, I think they've used the game to recreate, that era in the sky, but pilots navigating through smack on the ground and brilliantly done. So you just think, whenever I see a flying computer game like that, I think, wow. Anyway, that was the sideline. If you haven't seen it yet, I don't want to spoil it.
I have a question about this game. Do you organize, obviously, if it's a game, you were saying you don't have to be 16 people?
Correct.
So how many people usually would play the game? Because sometimes it can be tough in Opensim to organize.
Well, it's work in progress, so it's not even open to the public yet. Oh. The only player right there right now is the scripter that you see recording.
Oh, good.
The way it's set up is it will see how many players are sitting in seats, and then if let's say there's only 8 players and they're all divided across the teams, the remaining seats will be filled out with NPCs. Now, it is also... I'm not sure if he scripted this yet, but he does have different... he was planning on working on different NPCs of varying skills. Like, the more players filling the seats, the more likely you'll have a smarter NPC fill in one of the roles. An ace, so you will, if you will. To help even out the combat.
So your motivation for making the game is so that your residents can play it, or is part of it just because you want to see if something sophisticated like this will work in Opensim? Tell us the truth, Roy. Which is it?
Honestly, it's both. I've been wanting this plane combat system on Mobius. Well, since we've met Thirza, actually.
Wow. Yeah.
I've had a friend who specializes in stuff like this on SL who was initially willing to, but he's quite well known for procrastination. You've actually seen the old red planes we have. He made those and donated to us, but they were using a freebie script because his original script he was not happy with compared to his modern stuff. Akile is he's a good buddy of mine now, but we met through a mutual friend who suggested him to pick up the contract work for us, and he is amazing with the work he's doing. He's always figuring out stuff with he need to use OSSL and stuff in a way that we would be comfortable with, as well as integrating more modern, scripting techniques from Second Life. And he's very creative. Ruby really likes him as well. So.
Oh yeah, we've had so many presentations on scripting in OSSL, and Open Simulator people are doing amazing things. I think they, in some ways, have gone
we
beyond.
need to give a shout out to Ruby, because Ruby has done so many amazing things on your grid. So shout out to Ruby, good work there, fantastic.
While we're on scripting sort of stuff. Right. Before I set the 20 minutes or so background video running behind us while we're talking, maybe Rod, Thirza was telling me about you have some special hands, and I guess we'll autofocus the camera on your hands while we're talking about that.
Oh, wait.
Yes.
My avatar? They're bento, if that's what you're talking about, which I don't think it's really anything special.
so is my avatar bento. That's
it's just standard. It's just a very... I think it's just more the fact that they are part of a body we're working on currently.
Right, okay. I don't know why. I had the feeling there was something special about them, the script or something that we were going to talk about. Okay, well...
No, it's the head. That's probably what you were thinking of.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to start running the film of your regions now.
Of course.
We started in that one big one. This is an aerial shot there, you can see. And as soon as I start it, the camera will start wandering. This is all silent, so you don't need to worry about not hearing the sound, because there ain't any. And funny, it does move, yeah. So, this is mostly aerial shooting, though I did notice a few underground bits that I tried to cam in on at various times. But this is just running silently behind us. James is showing it full screen or in an inset window or whatever. So just to mix it all up while we talk. So, you mentioned, or rather Thirza mentioned, was it Ruby, who's done a lot of work on your regions?
Ruby is actually our scripter and developer, to answer that. This build actually was built by Drake Spiker. He passed away about a year ago. All the prim work that's still there was his work, and any of the mesh work that you see like in the landing area is me and Turbo's updating it, taking his prim work and making more optimized mesh, which he was always like excited about whenever he could walk on a mesh and not realize it was not his prim work. He was like,
Yeah.
I love this, because his way he saw it was, I'm prototyping, you guys are finalizing.
Talking of, as we were, well, I'm coming back to the scripts again here, but there's a lot of things that are obviously scripted here. Just even I'm only running around.
Oh yeah,
Under the
the
water here,
scripting would be Ruby.
but you've got like snow falling everywhere, and there's a bit that we've passed it now. Maybe it'll come back, but sort of like buckets moving.
Oh, you're
Again,
talking about the floating platforms.
yeah. So there's a lot of that sort of stuff going on. So even though there are no other avatars here, NPCs or anything, I just deliberately on my own. It feels alive. You know, enough happening in the actual region to.
That's something we try to do, make it feel nice. But yeah.
So I have a question. Is the region supposed to, the region when you arrive on Mobius and you don't know anything about Mobius, you don't know anything about the grid, except that it looks like it might be an interesting place. So the first place you arrive seems to be a game. And many people have asked me, are we supposed to be, I know you have your fishing game on the, I don't mean that, but I mean
yeah, I get what you mean.
the rings that are spinning and everything. So many people have asked me, are we supposed to be playing a game here? Or is it just a sort of an artistic representation of the spirit of the games?
Bit of both. The reason why I say that right now it's just artistic representation. We have been working on a game system on and off, but over the years got hit a few roadblocks due to limitations of the software, unfortunately. But over years we've gotten further and stuff. Like the corkscrew and the loops that you saw, you can actually run across those. Those, as long as you're running, you'll engage.
I remember doing that
actually...
a couple of years ago. Yeah,
If
so
you're
that
not
was
running,
great.
you fall.
I mean, if you walk, you're just gonna walk through the corkscrew. You'll just fall.
Yep.
But if you run, it'll work.
There will be a bit coming up shortly where I discovered an underground layer and stuff like that. And like Thirza, when I got to that, I thought, oh, I wonder if there's a game happening here. Here. This is a dead end, but there's another one.
Yeah, that used to be a tunnel, but when it was a prim build. But we never actually made the actual tunnel for the mesh yet.
All right.
So I just put some rubble there to, help not people fall inside the mesh.
Sure. Now, how have you mastered that at all? As I said, there is a bit coming up where I sort of, I think I only go underground for a bit, and then I pop out a bit further along. But have you mastered getting an underground bit in mesh? I mean, I remember trying it with Cave a long while ago. I'd have a single mesh, and I'd texture it differently on the top, and I'd make a duplicate with a different bottom.
We just haven't gotten around to it yet.
Yeah.
Not a lot of hands, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, mesh is the sort of thing you can't literally drill a hole into to make a tunnel. You
gotta do it in Blender itself. Yeah, which we can definitely do. But the way our workflow was until, unfortunately, last year, Drake would do a lot of the building itself in Prim. And, I missed a spot, it looks like.
What?
Don't worry about it.
Okay. I didn't see it.
But yeah, so long story short, Drake would do a lot of the Prim work, and then me and Turbo would later export it, clean it up in Mesh, add some additional visual tweaks and stuff, and LOD it as well, and make proper physics. So it's one of the reasons why Green Hill Zone loads so fast when you hypergrid in, despite being mostly mesh.
Wow, yep.
Is because it's fairly well optimized, and we were mentioning heavy mesh earlier through on avatars.
That's true. Yeah.
It's a two-edged sword with mesh.
Right. I had never thought about that. Yeah.
With mesh, it's a two-edged sword. In the right hands and well optimized, Prim and Sculpts can't compete. But anyone could upload anything, whether it's well made or not, So, well-made mesh is amazing. Poorly made mesh is a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
And
absolutely right. But it is true that your region, your welcome region, is incredible.
now
When
this
people arrive,
region
they
is
can see
based off of.
everything.
Now this region you see here is based off of Cutalula Park. She gave us a copy of the OER ages ago, and we're just currently working on making it fit our own style. Which, as you probably noticed, some of the things have been changed around and stuff. That's a work in progress. And honestly, it's just been slow. I have to get some walls meshed and some other stuff to make it fit. The sky, if you actually have the sky settings set up, I'm not sure. The actual EP was made by Luna, Lunaria. She made the skies for us.
Yep.
I'm not. Oh, and
is Cutalala the same one
you're-
we know who does the music?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, she is.
Okay. Awesome.
I've had that OER for ages. I just finally started making use of it.
Nice.
That's the initial version of the Y Engine version when Y Engine first came out. So
Very cool.
And this next region is a combination of two regions from Linda Kelly, the Clutterfly Mall and her original mall, plus her Hypergrid's Welcome Center with our own touches. Was if you cam out and see the whole thing, you could definitely, if you know the sources, you can definitely see, okay, there's 3 regions being combined, plus a lot of original stuff.
I love that because you're bringing, you have the heritage of Opensim. Opensim is a sort of as a culture, as a community. I love that you've kept, the faith, if you will, with the older things, because that's what our whole world is based on.
Well,
and it's great. And Linda Kelly and so forth. It's lovely.
Well, some of the stuff that Linda Kelly put in there, we did actually update and replace. There are some mesh recreations, as well as I swapped out their AO script that they put in their mall with ours, which is much lighter and more memory efficient.
Right.
Than Zhao or even
because
Chaos.
obviously all these things sure. Oh my goodness, yeah, Zhao.
Yeah.
But
So
it's nice though that the memory is still there of the original creations. That's great.
now this region was built by Kiro Dragoon over a decade ago. This was originally on Second Life, and he brought over his build for us. And he gave it to us a few years ago, and I just recently brought it back online, just for some updating and stuff, because I've had people ask me for years, hey, can we live in this region? And I'm like, with its current build, that'd be insane.
Yeah.
And I was actually doing some touch-ups here recently, to improve the the build a little bit. You may not. Anyone who's familiar with this build will probably notice the small things I did.
Well, when I was camming around in the sky filming, I tended to follow the lit up areas because I knew there was going to be something to film down there, whereas where there weren't any lights usually.
But yeah, this build is ancient.
And still.
Yeah. But for mostly Primrock, it holds up fairly well.
Of course, I had to go beyond the under construction sign, and I found a nice little wood there.
Oh yeah, that's because that's an area he never finished.
Yeah, but it was cute. Pays to disobey the signs is what I'll say. There we are. That's the little wood.
Oh, that area. You were filled this before I cleared out that area.
Oh, you've done this since yesterday?
Oh, wait,
you mean I should
Oh.
You mean
I got... Oh, no, there was... No, not against that. This was an OAR that was sitting around for years that I loaded recently and was clearing out some old... So the way he would build is he would reference the model and kind of trace around it in Prim. And I typically don't like, stuff like that in a publicly open region, so I was clearing that out. Because as much as I want to update this region, I'll be doing it in parts. As is right now is more than fine.
The familiar. Sorry, just interrupting.
The Ouija meme.
Finally, we get to the familiar Mobius characters.
Oh, that one's Nintendo, and
Yeah.
Kiro liked his jokes and stuff.
Sega.
He liked his memes. But yeah, well, this area is inspired by a PlayStation game, so like Mobius is inspired by gaming as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of people who like to express their love of gaming and anime and stuff.
Yeah, it definitely seems like you've grown beyond the Sonic the Hedgehog lore into something much bigger.
Well, we've tried from the beginning. The problem was most of our builders specialize in that kind of stuff, which makes it kind of hard to expand onwards.
Yep.
When the only people you can find who are willing to work with you are people in that field.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
One of the things that I keyed in, I sort of mentioned a bit earlier, and you just identified for me. This feels like halfway between a pixel world and an Opensim Second Life world, because all the textures, they're much better resolution than old 8-bit pixels, but the way they're constructed make you think of
it's stylized.
Yeah, a highly stylized pixel world, maybe 16-bit instead of 8-bit or something, but that's the key there, the thing that makes all the regions feel like your grid,
Yeah. Now that big red building that you saw in the center of the mall region that Welcome Center essentially serves as is actually inspired by a real life building that no longer exists. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with Australian theme parks, but that was based off of Sega World Cindy's building, which was an indoor amusement park. And this is actually a little, I was trying to make this mall feel like a bit like a town and stuff. So like you see, you're kind of showing a bit of the park that I was making. I still have to finish that building and its vending machines. And you probably see some corner buildings we're currently working on. We have to update their interiors because the textures didn't come out as well as we wanted. Now, this northern part's a bit historic.
I think it's neat that you're a builder. A lot of people, when they become grid owners, the first thing they do is they have to give up building because they just don't have time for it anymore. But it seems like you're very hands-on when it comes to building.
I'm more of a modder, but I'm usually involved very much with the builds. Now, that little island cafe, anyone who's familiar enough with Opensim history would probably be very aware of what that is. That was the Raz Cafe from Raz Wells. He pops on our grid every once in a while still, and we host his cafe for him.
Oh,
He used
very nice.
to be a fairly popular hypergrid destination when he had it on a standalone, from what I remember. It's where he met people like, Timothy Rogers and a few other people over the years.
Yeah. There are so many civilization hotspots around these days. It's a big area now. Believe it or not, we're at the end of the film there. So I can play it again when we continue talking, but did you want to show us the stuff you put in slide form? I think
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Since you guys, said you guys wanted to discuss about the history of Mobius and stuff like that, I thought I'd show the evolution of our head packs, for example.
Yeah, there we are. I've put it back to slide 1 for you. So
Now, I'm about to go look over. These are, well, I just used Fox for the example because that's typically what I use. Forgive the angle. It's my mouse was fighting me.
Been there.
So, if you look at the one on the left, that one is entirely sculpty.
Right.
Now that's our first
Okay.
generation. It just blanked. It was nothing special.
Hmm.
It was donated to us by an avatar maker who was a friend of ours on SL named Blue Blur the parts, and Cassie Moon's the one who assembled it in World for us. It didn't last that long. That's we refer to that one as Gen 1. The next one you see is actually a Gen 3. Gen 2 I don't know where it went, and it was not much of an improvement over 1. 2 introduced
And then some of the headgear is missing as we go along. It's fascinating.
Oh yeah. Gen 2, which is the next one over, introduced mouths that animated when you spoke, either in text or voice.
Ah,
Nice.
Now I'll say the one thing they all have in common is obviously they all blink and have eye movements. But initially, Gens 1 through 4 had both eyes on a single texture and on a sphere for the eyes. They did not move that nicely eye movement wise. They were fairly jerky and stuff, but stuff like that was it. Now the one in the middle, that is Generation 4. That is a collaborative effort between Cassie, Lily, and I believe Drake definitely told them how to script, as well as Ruby, but it was mostly Lily who actually did the scripting on that one. That was our first generation with where you could actually control the levels of the eyelids and stuff, so you can have them half down, stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And it was the first one with a HUD. Now,
how much? Talk about the eyes, the eyelids and stuff, and obviously the mouth and voice and things. Do you like in animation? Do you concentrate on a few particular aspects to emphasize, or you trying to recreate as many of all of them?
what do you mean?
Well, in animation, especially when done on a budget, the style will be
Oh,
heavily
okay.
blinking avatar and maybe a mouth that moves, but they'll pass on the rest of it because of time, for example.
They were texture animations.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering whether you're trying to make the animation on these heads as fully featured as possible, or like a caricaturist, are you concentrating on particular
Well,
things?
we're always adding more features to Generation, and actually, Generation 6 does have a fully animated mouth and stuff. A lot more so than 2 and 4, 3 and 4, which just had 2 different muzzles open and switching between which one was alpha. We actually went to proper texture animation with later.
Roy, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So it's really interesting, all these different generations. This one is the fox, correct?
Yes.
But you also have, I think there's a cat and there's a rabbit and there's a few others. So from the very beginning, did you have that variety of different kinds of creatures that people could choose from? Or?
Yes, we've always had fox, hedgehog, kinda, bat, cat. We've actually expanded since then. They're just not currently in the vendors because not all of them are complete. But we have about 8 different varieties currently that are complete, plus another 15 that need to be finished.
Wow.
Because and we're also working on non-Mobian varieties like typical furry as well as anime and stuff like that. So, but now back to the heads. Gen 5, which you see is the one with the pink inner ears. We licensed that from a creator called Ten-Faced on Second Life, and they brought them over, let us use them, and they actually gave us the master files as well, so we could build upon them for future versions, such as Gen 6, which is the one you see that's red and stuff, and also I'm wearing a copy. So, Gen 5 introduced where a more realistic eye movement, and we went from having 2 eyes on a single texture to 1 eye, which makes it easier, say, if you want your character to have heliochroma, for example.
Oh, okay.
They had it where you can choose if the mouth was also on the side, either side, and you know, added a blush and stuff like that, and you know, the few other things that they were nice, but
So
I
they're
felt there
very
could be improvement.
expressive. They're very expressive. These faces. Somebody might say, "Well, it's just very."
Yeah,
It's like an almost doll-like, somebody might say, but in reality, I guess if you're there and you're in a group of people, you all know each other. You have lots of different
yeah,
ways to express yourself, so it's
of
very
course.
cool.
And the eye position. Go on.
Did you mention earlier you have a HUD controlling this as
Of
well?
course, that's for the Gen 6, which is I could show you. It's on the next slide. But Gen 5 also had the eye states where you only can control both eyes at once. Unfortunately, where it's either all open, half open, or closed. We went further with that on Gen 6, which if you move to the next slide.
Yeah, click on the screen and about
So this is about to showcase the what we can do with the current generation of heads. So right there you see with our little logo on it is the actual main, you know, HUD when it's not minimized. And those two windows pop out when you click them. So, you know, when you click eye colors, you see that little selector wheel. Not a selector wheel, you know, selection of eyes as well as left eye, both eyes, stuff like that. So if you want to just change your right eye only, click right eye and then click whatever option you want. And, you know, if you want to change both eyes, you know, they're just, you know, that way it'll automatically apply it for you.
Yeah, so cool.
My avatar now is also a Bento avatar, and I know I can load.
I saw your hands move.
I can load different HUDs, you know, to customize it.
Yeah.
Once I finished, I put the HUDs away. What I was curious about is because so much of this has to do with animation of the head in particular. Whether you would have like a in Second Life, for example, that lovely little mesh pussycat. That is my avatar, you know, and the HUD that comes with it allows me to make noises like meow one, meow two, etc. Or I can do various operations like clean myself or eat or walk around somebody's leg. I think. And to do the action bit of it, it means I've always got the HUD up so that I can just click on what I want the cat to do. Whereas the appearance HUDs, like I've got with the Bento avatar, once I've done with them, I can put them away and I don't actually need to be wearing them. They just remember their last setting, if you see what I mean. So presumably these HUDs are a bit like that. You load them in order to configure your avatar, and then once you've done that, you then put it away again so it's not in your way. Right? Am I assuming?
I think. I'm sorry. I didn't fully. I zoned out for a sec. Sorry.
Yeah,
As
no,
I mentioned, a little
I know
sick.
the feeling. I've been doing it all day. No, I mean, I imagine when you load the HUD, what you see on the screen on the picture in front of us, you adjust, say, the left eye, the right eye, and everything, how you want it. But once you've adjusted them, presumably you can then put the HUD away, and it just remembers your last settings.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
it does.
yeah.
So it's I don't know exactly how I think one of the prims Ruby has its store in the object description. I'm not 100% sure, so you can't quote me on that. Because what he explained it to me was literally months ago, so I can't really, you know, tell you. But I can say is there is like, you know, for example, as you see with the mouth set, there is a prim inside our head, and actually, if you're welcome to cam inside mine and look for it, you'll see like a little cube with our mouths on them, like of all the states for what we're currently wearing. That way, when you switch the mouth type, it doesn't blur, you know, for people around you because it's already loaded and cached in.
Can I just interrupt for a second and say that we have a few guests who are watching live, including among many other lovely people. We have we called her Cutiolala artist earlier. Actually, she goes by the name Bloom now, Bloom Peters, and she's right here watching the show.
Awesome!
And she said, "Oh, yeah." She said, "Do you guys know about a grid called Mobius?" She said, "It's a Sonic themed world, and it's stunning." So just to let you know, she is watching. She's watching everything you're doing.
Awesome. I haven't heard from her in ages. I'm glad she's still around and kicking.
Got a good memory, that's for sure. Oh, we're back to the planes there, I see on the other screen. Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, back on the that's I guess it moved on its own or someone clicked it. But yeah, the back on the head stuff, it's actually, quite impressive with some of the stuff we did, because we just took things that we liked about previous generations that we wanted to bring back, and other stuff as well, and features that we're missing. Like, this is actually, while a lot of it's the same models as the Gen 5, as we call the 10-faced heads, we actually optimized the mesh a bit more, so it's actually a lot lower poly than the previous generation, even though it's still UV compatible, so all the textures and stuff still work. It's also LOD'd, And we took advantage of Bake on Mesh as well, so you could set your head texture in the head, the head slot on your skin automatically applies.
Yeah.
If you use Aux1 on a universal asset, it'll apply to the ears. Aux2 right to the eyelids. And we even went in a way to make it. So typically the best way to do something like this is where if you want to add in more texture options is to use UIDs. But we factored in the fact that doesn't necessarily work well across Hypergrid due to it being the Hypergrid. So all those textures for the eyes and the mouths are actually in the HUD. We have, so as you see my eye selection there, it's the HUD knows their eye textures in the contents by the prefix just I, as in EYE dash, and then whatever the name of the texture is. Yeah. And we did something similar with the mouths. So it's MS dash whatever the set's name is, and then dash the state. So for example, in this picture, this would be grin _ C because it's a center mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a side version, it's just would be grin, and it's just mirrored no matter what side you are. The exception to that would be the talking animations due to how animation frames work. So there's 3 different versions for each set's talking position.
You really get something quite sort of believable, immersive with all this. I think it's incredible how much work you put into this, and I bet people. I mean, let me ask you this: on a scale from 1 to 10, how important? I don't want to say obsessed. How important are people's avatars to your residents? Would you say on a scale of 1 to 10?
Fairly. Most of ours are gaming. Are either Sonic fans or furries. And we usually both. But we're all big on games. So. And most of our users are actually either fresh from Second Life or fresh to the metaverse, period.
Oh, wow. And let me just mention that Aquila Lumiere is in the chat on YouTube watching live. And I also have a request from Mary Blackthorn, who is the grid goddess over on Kinky Haven Grid. She says, I have questions for your developer. If they could contact me, please, in Discord. I guess we'll try and put you two in touch with each other. You're got all the fans are here, and also Girl on a Quest, which is the nick in YouTube of Bloom Peters, aka Cutie Lala. She says, "I wonder if I can use that head on Crescent Melodies, which is the sim she has where she does the music."
That depends. Are you using Y engine? Because the heads are scripted to use Y options, so they won't work on X engine, unfortunately.
Do you if people visit your grid who aren't cartoons,
We welcome everyone.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, can they actually purchase these from you, or get them for that matter in your grid, and they can wear them happily on other grids as long as
Of
they're
course.
If
Our
you look
kits
in the
are
audience,
freebies.
you'll see that there's a Thirza in the audience that is dressed with a fox outfit. She's sitting in the front row. Yeah, there's a wonderful little freebie shop, and I'm sure you have stuff for sale too. But even the freebies are excellent stuff. And I dressed Thirza up, and with the hair and everything,
You
fantastic.
do look cute, don't you?
The
And you
freebies
got
in our
a lovely little necklace on saying HG Safari. I think I've seen it on. Yeah, lovely. Never mind. Sorry.
Oh, that is a nice necklace. Yeah, they're using the Toon Body, which is also made by Ten Faced, who we've licensed, the head mesh and stuff as well from. Ten Faced is a good friend of mine, and I honestly have to thank my roommate for, introducing us, because my roommate helped Ten Faced make stuff. Well, when Ten Faced was active on SL, they would help Ten Faced make stuff. So if it wasn't for Dominic, I would not have the new heads base, the new head, the foundation for our new heads, basically, and bodies.
So a good shout out to Dominic. Thank you for all your
And
hard
Ten
work
Faced.
and putting people in contact. And Ten Faced too, sure, of course. But Dominic also probably brings home pizza, so
Once in a while, it's usually Taco Bell.
Well, we've got a few other slides to go, actually, about 4 of them by the look of it, which seem to be somewhat different from have we finished?
But yeah.
Not the greatest amount of time left, so yeah, we might as well get to the other slides, unless you've got more to tell on this.
Well, it does kind of help answer what Wendell Blackthorn was asking. So we do maintain, well, I should say, not for much longer, we do maintain our own fork of Opensim called Consortium. We are actually currently migrating our code base to be based off of NGC and collaborating with them.
Right.
Because we do have experience in display names, stuff other Opensim grids do not have. That, Ruby is the sole reason why we have those features.
Mm-hmm.
But, we have a lot of the same opinions and, goals as NGC. So our logic was it makes more sense to work with these people, especially since we get along well, than to have two forks with basically the same goals.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I think I know somebody came along for you there and changed it from the X engine to the Y engine on this region for you. Is there any, I mean, generally, not just for your use, is there any, I think it's in the text file, I guess. I mean, it's just a line where you change the actual engine, I think. But is there any particular preference for you? I know for you and what you're doing, the Y engine is what you want. But do you feel it's the best engine of them all, or
Yes. When it comes while Y engine does leave a lot to be desired in certain places. Between X engine and Y engine, X engine does not come anywhere close to Y engine's capabilities.
Right.
X engine's extremely inefficient. It's memory and CPU intensive when it doesn't need to be. So one of the reasons why it's inefficient, and to dumb it down, is so let's say, so what's X engine does is it converts LSL into C# and compiles it into a DLL, and then runs that. It's converting one language to another, and it's why you can have 5 different scripts that do the same thing, but all written different ways, and maybe only 2 of them will work on X engine. Because C# requires it done a certain way and certain things, and LSL just, doesn't care. Plus, X engines also doesn't fully follow the LSL spec all that well. Y engine's a lot
Mm-hmm.
more like how SL's script engine, behaves. Compiles it to Microsoft Intermediate Language and then runs it. So it's also a lot more memory efficient because of that. Now I will say, its garbage collection currently, for lack of a better word, is garbage, but that's Opensim script engines in general.
Are there many others, by the way, other than
Um,
XY?
There's only 2 other script engines I'm aware of, but none of them are in Opensim themselves.
I
Well,
remember
one's
when I
not anymore. There
remember when I
was
had Third Beckhausen's World on my local computer. I haven't used it for ages, but they updated at some point, and I remember there was I remember the update went from X engine to Y engine, and we were warned that there were a few things that would be different or whatever.
yeah.
But
So because Y engine's it's actually a little stricter on syntax than even SL in some cases, which can always be improved. But it's a lot more like how SL's script engine expects you to format a script and stuff like that. So a lot of the problems we noticed with scripts written on X engine not working on Y engine, it's just because X engine just didn't care how you wrote it and didn't follow the spec fully.
Ah.
So in most cases, it's barely any modifications, just some cleanup, no rewriting code to work on it till we get a script that broke on the change to start working again.
I'm very surprised.
Right, and I'd just like to.
Well, it's like what happened with Ubode. People don't understand the problem. When people said Ubode broke their physics, it's because, Bullet and ODE don't require you to upload a physics mesh to actually have proper physics. Ubode, like SL, does. So when you have a mesh uploaded under Bullet, and I'll say incorrectly because that it's incorrect for Ubode just doesn't work correctly. It just freaks out with the collisions. But like you saw the mesh roads in the shopping center I have, those were made by my friend Kurt, and he uploaded those and made those unbullet in Kitely, and he made a proper physics mesh and uploaded them on Bullet, and those work correctly on Ubode. So if you upload it on Bullet or ODE, as long as you provide a proper physics mesh at upload, they're going to work as expected on Ubode.
It's backwards compatible.
And we have a comment here from YouTube. We have again Bloom Peter. She says Y engine has made present melody possible. X engine can't handle it. She said she modified it. She modified her Y engine, and now she calls it a Winx engine because her
course she
grid,
would.
of course, is called Winxtropia.
I'm aware. But yeah,
I'm kind of curious as to I wasn't here, but I gather this region was modified before the show. But our studio here is on OS Grid, which of course is the commonly known as the developers grid and everything else. And I'm actually curious as to why this region was actually running.
Well, I looked. It's running on 9.2. The switch to making Y the default was 9.3.
Oh, right. So OS Grid is behind the times. That's interesting.
Or whoever's maintaining the region hasn't updated yet. Who knows?
Okay, it's region specific, I suppose. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because Yulibza Plaza is definitely running Y engine. I go there all the time and could run this head on it just fine. But yeah, that's the thing. A lot of the problem is on Opensim is when people say, "Oh, Ubode breaks my mesh," or "Y engine breaks my scripts." 9 times out of 10, no, they're just exposing that you've made something broken.
Yes, exactly. Your fault.
And don't get me wrong, I don't like hearing my shit's broken either because of me being an idiot. So like, and I've done plenty of that myself.
This might explain why now and again we've had your guest on this show who shall we say, have not resolved themselves very well at all.
Yeah.
It could simply be a matter of the Y engine not being here.
But also let's look at X engine for a second. X engine's been around forever, and it had that and I mentioned it's been very lax with the formatting of how you write scripts. So people just expected that's how it is. And since it's been that way for so long, when YEngine came along and essentially fixed that issue, there's years of content that's broken because people are just, well, writing it in a broken way because that's how they had to do it.
At the time, yeah. No, it's well, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't support both at once. I mean, your suggestion to people that have that problem is to actually repair.
For those who
That's
can,
right. You're
yes.
right, Miles. Because look at, it's another comment for you. Again, Bloom, she says, all my roller coaster scripts were broken in Y. And then she laughs. So even she's had the same problem.
Exactly.
Because of too many channel numbers, she says. So I guess it's a common problem. It doesn't matter how good you are at building. You know, you can have problems.
Yeah, I mean, we even had some problems when we went across it, when we migrated to it, and we migrated it fairly early. Mostly our problems is our rings stopped working, but that's mostly due to X-Engine actually supporting something that was spec that Y-Engine initially didn't.
Got you.
Which was a bit different in our case. So, Ruby would typically, like, write a value, like, I'm just gonna... Likewise, he would write it as 1.0 and then F, you know, treat it like a float, which is not something it does, but it's something they were adding in SL ages ago, and then they abandoned. Ruby got into habit of it when they didn't abandon that yet, but it still works. X-Engine supported it, and then, well, Y-Engine didn't, so he wrote the patch and submitted that. In fact, a few patches that are in core itself that Ruby has submitted was fixing, treating, you know, that as a float, some patches to JSON, and he's also the one who fixed top scripts.
You know, I keep thinking we're running close on time now, actually, but I keep thinking it would be great to have like a sort of public like sandbox center in Opensim, which would run on Xgrid. And you could take things there and maybe have some kind of tutor classes that show you how to modify them to work properly. So it will then work,
Good idea.
continue to work in Xgrid, but also be compatible with YGrid. It's long overdue. I mean, especially as we think of the amount of stuff over the years that's badly formatted, including I use, by the way. So
Y-Engine also adds a bunch of features that make scripting a lot nicer, and we obviously don't have enough time to get into all of it, but that's actually one of the reasons why our heads didn't work, is because it's actually using a Y option, a extension that only works in Y-Engine. And if I remember correctly, it's advanced flow control, which actually makes like quite a few things nicer.
Okay, I'm going to start wrapping. I hate to do it, but there's a limit to how long we can discuss here. But I'm just going to run through. I'll do it for you. In fact, I'm going to run through your other 4 slides first, just so you can explain what they are. We didn't get round to that. Obviously, I know what the plane is. But
of course.
More comments on that?
Well, that's actually the plane in its new skin. Actually, if you notice, it looks different than how it did in the video, and that is a Keeley flying it. And you know, we just thought a nice little action shot to showcase that would, you know, be a bit cool. And
yeah, there he is.
You probably noticed we leaned into the cartoony with the roar of the engine particle effects being like you'd see in a comic as well.
And the tail fin. I can't quite tell at this angle, but it looks like it's got a cartoon on the tail fin.
Oh,
Tails.
That would be Tails' symbol, which because he has 2 tails. So that specific plane is actually the Tornado 2, which is a plane of his. We actually have a few different skins being made for the plane. That is one of them. That way the different teams have different, like, obviously visually different colors and stuff.
Briefly, while we're on the gaming, the roleplay thing, do these aerial combats take place on like the sims I've been filming, the ones here, or do you have
the sim that you see in that the film wing was on, the video was on, is actually the combat region. It's not quite open yet, because, you know, once it's open, people can come and play whenever they want. We plan to set events up as well. you know, because a lot of our users like stuff like this. It's just for a long time we haven't had the ability to do stuff like that.
No, it just kind of worries me that if a plane gets shot down or something, it will ruin some of the lovely architecture on the land below. But there we
No,
go.
that don't worry
There we
about
go.
that. It's a
I
separate
know, I'm
region.
just joking.
It is a separate region, not connected.
Oh, right, okay. So, yeah, what's the next slide here?
That is Green Hill Zone in its winter
It's the
skin.
same. It's the same as the first frame of the video. It's up next door there.
Yeah, that.
Mm.
Now, as I mentioned, the build was initially built by Drake and updated by me and Turbo, but the texture work is done by one of our users who's a good friend, who I've known her for a long time, named Suni Blackheart. Sorry, I usually call her a different name, but when it comes to this stuff, she wants me to refer to her as Suni.
Okay.
Now, this was the shopping center, which I thought this angle looked pretty with the lighting and stuff. Now, it does... Now, I will say the biggest pain was actually, if you look between the road and the Welcome Center area, was all those trees and bushes was like the biggest pain for me to do. Because initially it had all the nice, like, pine and other trees and stuff that you'd expect from a Linda Kelly build. Because remember, I mentioned that this is a combination of 3 builds plus a lot of my own enhancements on it, like the roads and stuff, connecting everything.
It's really amazing because one of the first things I found filming was I thought.
You sent me a message? Hold on, sorry. One of our guests.
I see it says that's familiar, and then but I look close, and then although it's familiar, it's not the same thing. And the funny thing is, you have one of our Hypergrid International Expo booths.
What?
We have a little booth that we give out to people because it's low weight and everything for people that do exhibits for our international expo that we hold in the Hypergrid. And we're modifying it a bit this year, but you have one of those booths, and somewhere I noticed it because I thought, that's a familiar booth. It probably came from Linda Kelly originally, You've obviously modified it, and so
Yeah.
it looked familiar, but it was different. That was the magic of it, I think, really. Yeah. But last thing. Yeah, I'm going to go to your last slide here. I detect the sunset here somewhere. Yes, exactly. Yes. This is the small town.
Now, yeah, this was... This is before I knew you actually went around and filmed these pictures I took. I didn't have much else to show, unfortunately, due to a lot of the historic images being gone.
Yeah, that's a shame. But I really want to thank you for being here today, Roy, because I know you're not feeling well in real life. You're a little bit suffering with the weather, with being under the weather. So thank you for making the effort to come all the way to OS Grid.
It started Friday, unfortunately. Like, just my luck.
It's that time of year, I think.
I've been taking Dayquil the last few days.
Whereabouts are you in real life? Wherever in the States, I know, but where?
I am in Ohio, actually. Funny enough, I live the next town over from Mike Chase.
Well. I know. I stayed in Columbus once.
Cassie's from Columbus originally. They don't live there anymore, but that's I've been to Columbus. It's quite nice.
Well, for me, it was back in the 70s. I think everything's changed.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Okay, well, time to wrap the show, I'm afraid. But I'd like to thank everybody who's here. On my left, we have our sort of tech man, James Atlloud. Thank you, James.
Yep, sure thing.
And on my left-hand side, the wonderful co-host, Thirza Ember. Thank you, Thirza.
Thank you so much, Mal, for being here and organising everything. And really, thank you so much, Roy. Please promise you'll come back and see us again another time.
Well, when I can.
I'm sure he will. So, yes. And, I better call you Roy. change.
It's all right.
No, thank you, Royal.
Oh.
I have to say Royal. Actually, I don't know why it's fixed in
Oh,
my
it's
mind.
Royale. It's
I like
but that's
Royale
why
too. Yeah.
it's pronounced
Right.
Royale. It's the French version of the word.
Yeah, exactly. Royale. Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway,
it's because I
thank you.
chose it because like Battle Royale. I always like the sound of that.
Oh, it has got a good ring. Actually, I must admit that's one of those.
Yeah, it's also why I go by Roy, because most people mispronounce it.
Isn't that a chapter in a Sonic game too?
No, I'm not actually quite sure.
Oh, okay. I thought there was.
I wouldn't be surprised at some point, but it's been used in a lot of different games.
Yeah.
That term.
Yeah. Subliminal influences there, probably. Okay, well, thank you, Royale. Wonderful to have you here, and we will see you again before long, I hope.
Well, hopefully soon.
Okay. Before we go, I'll just apologise if there have been any odd sound discrepancies today. For some reason, fortunately, we didn't have any video with sound, because we wouldn't have heard it if we did. And there was a little bit of echo problem at the beginning of the show, which I think resolved itself. But you win some, you lose something. At least we aren't powered by V-Volts, or there wouldn't have been any show at all. Right, okay. So it's goodbye from me. I wish you all a very good morning, a very good afternoon, a very good evening, or indeed a good tomorrow, depending on wherever and whenever you are. We're out of here. Bye for now.